So we get in there, and then obviously it's all in Italian, so I don't really know what's being said at the service. But I went and prayed and took communion, and then the guy sent me photos. He took of me like walking into it, which were really good. He had this nice camera, but then he just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. Like, I have his contact, you know what I mean? But I just somehow lost him in church. I mean, crazy story, you know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe he's a saint. Wherever he's at. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Ream. I have a pretty cool episode for you this week. Notice I didn't say I have a fantastic guest. No, I do have an incredible, fantastic guest for you once again. I have someone who I actually met in person before I met in the world of social anything. I have camp director and world traveler Payne on the show today, and I would like to thank you for being here, Payne. And if you would be so kind to introduce yourself to our listeners, who are you?
Thank you, Bill. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And it was quite interesting how we met at PNC Bank. What was the name of your coworker who introduced us?
Donna. It was actually funny because I don't, if I'm not mistaken, I wasn't there that day when you came
No,
in.
you were traveling, I think, right? Correct?
Yeah, maybe. Could have been.
Okay, great. Well, anyway, shout out to Donna for introducing us. That's what led me to being on the show. Yeah, so a little bit of background of myself. My name's Payne Roberts, and I'm a camp director here in the Pittsburgh region for Champions Education. So I recently arrived back about 6 months ago after a year of travel. And before that, I was living in Hong Kong, China for a total of 7 years. I recently got back, yeah, again, 5 months ago. So, but I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. I was born in Allegheny Hospital. I moved away to Indiana where I was when I was about 3. My time in Indiana, I usually just kind of spent outdoors, stay with my grandparents a lot out in like kind of the woods, which I think kind of is how I grew up to want to kind of explore things. With them being farther away now, we moved back to Pittsburgh when I was in middle school, which was quite interesting. So, I did grow up here in the area. I went to high school at Canon McMillan, so shout out Big Macs. But my junior year of high school, I actually went to Oak Hill Academy. I think that is where I kind of got more of an interest of traveling internationally because a lot of my friends there were from all over the world. So I remember some people, my roommate was from Korea. Shout out to Juan. He's a great guy. He actually came and stayed with me here in Pittsburgh a couple of times when he couldn't go home for break. I had friends on my soccer team from Africa, Sweden, China, Japan, just people from all over. So I think that was really where my start of wanting to see the world really started, just getting to see their different perspectives. And that just kind of grew on me. And then as far as that, I stayed around here for college where I went to CCAC and got my associates in business management while I was working at the DoubleTree Hotel near the Meadows Casino, where I was a night auditor. And by some unlucky events, I ended up having to do about 35 days on night shift, but that gave me the money to finally book my first international trip, which was inspired by the movie The Beach. I don't know. Are you familiar with that, Bill?
I've heard of it. I feel like I've seen it, but I'm not positive.
So The Beach it's with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's a young kid, and he goes and travels out to Thailand by himself, and they find like this island, which is we'll get to later, is Koh Phi, which I actually visited myself on this trip to Thailand, but now it's a little bit too touristy. So in the movie, like they go visit it. It's a hidden beach that they find on a map from another guy in a hostel. So just watching that movie, it just really sparked an interest and kind of to go like explore and see Thailand. At that age, I think I was about 22, so similar age to him in the movie. And then yeah, so then that kind of just led me to my first trip, and that was a 2-week trip to Thailand.
That's awesome. I feel like there must have been something, and maybe it was just growing up and having friends that were international and whatever, and that just kind of spurred it for you. I wonder if there was anything else that maybe even subconsciously learning geography in school or something like that, had kind of kicked up some interest for you. But I'm also interested to know how did that, how do you go from night jobs at a hotel and then traveling a little bit to now your role that you have as a camp director? It's which, first of all, I love what you're doing, but how did that come about?
So yeah, so that was where it was interesting is so I went to Thailand for about 2 weeks, and I went with a friend of mine. Shout out to Madison Schratz now. She's married and has 3 lovely children. So that was quite interesting because we were very similar at the time, and we went on that trip as young individuals, but we came out of it with two very different perspectives, right? So we started off going to Bangkok for 2 days, which was a bit overwhelming if you've ever been to Bangkok, because it's just so crazy and crowded. And, two kids growing up in Pittsburgh, it's a lot different type of city. But then we also went to Chiang Mai, which is a little bit up north in the jungle area, which was a lot more relaxed but lovely and some of the best food you'll ever have. And then we also went and, as young kids do, went to the full moon party around like the islands in the south, Koh Phangan, Koh Samui, and which is around that same area I was talking about in the beach. So the full moon party, it's a party that everyone goes to when the full moon is out, right? And I think they have them about once every month, but there used to be where it was a year they'd have a big one. And we actually made a friend there. His name's Connor, and he actually came to Pittsburgh and visited us just after, not too long after that trip. And we only met him for a couple days. You know what I mean? So it was quite surprising that a guy from England would want to come visit Pittsburgh just after meeting us for a week. But he did, and he loved the city. But so that kind of, I got off track there a little bit, but that's kind of what led me to knowing that I wanted to pursue this more and make a life out of traveling. And my friend Madison, when she got back, she decided to kind of go the alternate route. And she decided that she wanted to stay here in Pittsburgh, and she was ready to kind of start a family, right? Which she did at the time, was dating a gentleman named Connor, and they're married now and have 3 lovely children. And I'm still friends with them to this day. And that was about 10 years ago. Connor was also on my soccer team, so I knew him before that as well. So they ended up having a lovely family, and I ended up then coming back on the night shift and realizing that I needed something bigger, right? So to expand on that, I always would tell people in my travels, I don't know, Bill, are you familiar with Plato's cave allegory?
Boy, you're hitting me with stuff. I don't think.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, it's okay. It's okay.
so Plato's cave allegory is something that I think at that time in my life I could honestly relate to. It's to make it simple, is it's a story about two guys chained to a rock in a cave, and they're looking at a wall, right? So the only light that is coming into the cave obviously is from the entrance, and the only thing that they can see in front of them is their two shadows on the wall, right? So they're chained, they can't look at each other. But what they can see on the wall is shadows, right, of people walking by or animals walking by. So their whole life, all they've seen is shadows, right? Two-dimensional figures. Well, eventually one of the man's chains rust and fall off, right? And he looks around and realizes he's in a cave. So he sees the light, and at first it's quite difficult, right? Because if anyone's been in dark for a long time, seeing bright light right away, it kind of hurts. It's uncomfortable. And he slowly makes his way out of the cave and then realizes that there's a whole world out there, right? He can see, trees and the sky and the ocean. So he goes back into the cave, being a good friend, and tries to, get this other guy out of the cave to, I guess, open his perspective, show him that the world's a lot bigger place. But the guy doesn't want to come out because the only thing he's ever known is the shadows that he's seen in front of him. So, not to go too much into that, you can research into it yourself if you want to see more of the reasoning behind it. But I related that to a lot because I feel like that trip to Thailand was me getting out of that cave. So coming back to work a night shift at the DoubleTree just felt like I was putting myself back into the cave.
That makes a lot of sense. So at that point, you decided to make a change as far as career.
Yeah, so at that point, I had made a lot of money working overtime for 2 months. Sadly, one of my coworkers, the only other auditor, ended up in the hospital. She was elderly, and I had to cover for her for about 2 months, working every day straight. But that allowed me to save a lot of money working overtime. So I decided when I got back, I think it was about 3 days in, I had a decent amount of money still after the trip. So I looked up where I could find TEFL certification jobs and how I was led to that. So if you're not familiar with what TEFL is, it is teaching English as a foreign language. It is a certificate you can get. And for most countries, that paired with a degree, you are able to be an English teacher in a foreign country, right? Let's say Thailand or China. So I looked up online where I could get a certificate in person, like do a training course. And that led me to finding Playa Samara, Costa Rica. So that night, I decided that I was going to do that. So again, I think I was about 22. So I took all the rest of the money I had, and I booked a 1 month course in Playa Samara, Costa Rica. And that kind of led me on to my transitioning to my teaching adventure.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So let me do this actually before we get into like really the travels part of it, and even I think obviously through the travels, I think we're going to get back to sort of how you ended up in the position you are today. But unlike a lot of my guests, you don't have like your own website. I don't think. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm wrong. But you may have some socials. I think you're on LinkedIn, as far as I know. Are there places that people can find you if they're interested in getting to know you better or asking you questions about anything we talk about today?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I always welcome people to reach out to me anytime with any questions. I am an educator, so I am happy to share or help people any way possible. So if you do just look up Payne Roberts, so it's PayneRoberts, and then Director of Education, you'll find my LinkedIn. As far as other social media, I am not a big propagator of using it, so I don't really use it at all.
No, and that's fine. And actually, believe it or not, probably almost a fifth, at least 20%, I would say, of my guests have basically nothing except for LinkedIn. So that's very fair. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you kind of I usually would ask a guest like how did travel become a thing in your life? You've already answered that for us, which is fantastic, or at least, you're getting there with it. The main part of how it became a thing for you has already kind of been established. So let me ask you, and you can take this any way you'd like to. You can list kind of the countries you've been to, or you can, whatever you'd like to do, Payne. But let me ask you the question, which is the title of our podcast. It's Payne Roberts, where have you been?
Where have I been? Well, so far I have been, I would say so we've gone over Thailand, correct? Playa Samara, Costa Rica, Hong Kong, China, Macau. You could technically say China, but they like to think that that's separate. I've been to Bali, Indonesia, and a couple smaller outer islands. I've been to many places in Philippines, along with many places in mainland China for work, which we'll probably get to later. I've been most recently then back to Bali again for a friend's wedding. And then my first time in Europe was in Italy. And then multiple places around the US. And that's about it.
It's still a pretty decent list.
Japan also. I forgot about Japan.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm gonna ask you if you don't mind to start in Costa Rica since that's kind of where we were leaving off. I don't know how long you were there and how much you got to experience of it, but what was Costa Rica like for you? One of my favorite places on earth. So that's
Oh, you've been?
I've been about 4 or 5 times.
Oh wow, Bill. Yeah, that's awesome. Pura vida then. That means pure life.
Yeah, Pura Vida. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pure vida all day. I mean, Costa Rica was that was amazing. So I had already done my first trip with a friend, right, going to Thailand, which is always good. I think if you're going to travel, this is advice I'd give to listeners. If you haven't done it yet and you're going to go international, the first time is always easier to go with a friend. You know what I mean? But you'll also kind of miss out on the freedom of going alone, right? So there's a duality in that sense. So Costa Rica was the first time I'd ever left the country by myself, but I had set off with a very big goal, and that was to finish this teaching course, right? So I had my eyes set on a mission, and the mission was to go to Costa Rica and then come out as a teacher. And honestly, I can remember the first day like it was almost like it was yesterday, and that was about 8 years ago. I touched down in the airport. I remember I remember getting it was hot, very humid. I'm sure you know that since you visited before. I got an Imperial beer. Do you know Imperial, the brand?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I remember getting an Imperial brand beer, and then I was waiting on a small uh, van to pick me up from the airport and take me to Playa Samara, which is the small town where we're gonna have this teaching. If you want to look up to where it was, you can look up TEFL Costa Rica. That's the program that I did. Lovely people. It's owned by Barbara. She runs it. It was a great time. Honestly, I think you can go a lot cheaper options nowadays and get a TEFL for like $20 on the internet, right? And it does count, but I would say you're more paying for the experience than the certificate, which you can't really put a price on. And I just remember, yeah, getting in the small van since it is small town, and I'm sure Costa Rica is very good about keeping things clean, very eco-friendly. So you're always sharing a bus with someone else. You're not doing it private. They're trying to maximize efficiency as much as possible. So I remember sitting with this nice lady who was visiting her family that lived in Playa Samara. I think she was Dutch. Very lovely lady, and then a couple other local Costa Ricans. And I remember me and her stopping at a market, and she taught me what ceviche was. I'm not sure
Mm.
if ceviche?
One of my favorite time I've had ceviche a number of times. One of my favorite ones I'll never forget it. It was in Costa Rica. We were somewhere in the northwest area. I can't remember exactly where we were, I believe, but it was just a little roadside place. Obviously, the restaurants there, most of them don't have walls. Many of them don't have walls. So you just sit at a table, you're in cover, but there's no walls. And it was one of the most memorable ceviches I've ever had.
Oh, that's excellent. Yes. I remember stopping and she's like, we have to stop at the specific little, I mean, I guess you could call it a gas station, but it had one pump. So we stopped at that specific one and she's real polite. She's like, I hope you don't mind. I'm like, no, no, no. And then she came back in and was like, you got to try this. And I was, what is this? And she's like, it's ceviche. And I'm like, soup. I'm not one to be shy of eating anything. I ate everything you could imagine. Like when we were in Thailand, I had tried scorpion, grasshoppers. Again, growing up in the country as a kid, I was used to it all. So I remember, but it was so delicious. I was like, oh, that is definitely the best ceviche I've ever had in my life. And then yeah, so when we got back in the car, we were back in the little van, and then we pulled into Playa Samara, which is just a lovely little town. I mean, by the end of it, I knew everyone by name. It's like four roads, but it's right on a little bit like, like a little coast. So you're just right there on the water. The waves aren't too bad, but enough to surf. And I stayed at a little hotel. Most of the people in the program did homestays. So a cheaper way you can do it is you could just live with a local family, right? Which is also nice because you can work on your Spanish more, and then also like you get home cooked meals. It's just a little bit more of an affordable option. But for some reason, I went with the hotel option, which was nice. it was just $100 more. So I figured why not. And the gentleman that owned it, he was a Westerner. I think he was from Texas, but he was really nice. And I remember a couple of times like the pool got flooded over because we got stuck in like 2 hurricanes. And we had to like empty it out. So there's a lot of bonding moments helping out at that hotel. So yeah, man, it was just cool. So like I ended up living there for a month, and there's tons of stories I could go into about it.
If you have like a favorite or two, that's completely up to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm probably thinking of this because like I just recently adopted a dog, but I remember one of the guys I made, he was probably my best friend there. His name was Nathan. I'm not sure even what he did, but he was such a cool guy. He was amazing. He could do everything in the sense of like if you're like hit a bullseye on the dartboard, he could do it. He could ride a bike backwards, you know what I mean? He could surf, he could climb trees. So me and him became good friends, but it was quite odd because his English wasn't very good and my Spanish wasn't very good, but somehow we still
He was
communicated.
local.
Yeah, he was local. Yeah, he lived there,
Okay.
and he had a dog named Paquita, and that was probably the smartest dog I've ever met. Sorry, Lucy, I'm talking to my dog now, but that was probably smartest dog. That dog could surf. That it was like they both were like geniuses in some way. That dog could like find him. If I was like, Paquita, go find Nathan, that dog would walk a half a mile and could show me exactly where he was at. It was
Wow.
amazing. She could ride on like, so if someone was on a scooter, she would just jump up on the front and could just ride on it, balance herself. We would go on mountain hikes, right? So the cool thing that I got to do that not a lot of people got to do, right, is Nathan, since he was a local, he would take me on these jungle trail hikes. So you'd find like a small creek, right? And you're thinking, oh, this isn't very big. But we'd like walk up it through the jungle, and there's like coatimundis, those, like the raccoon things. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're a type of animal. I don't know.
Kind of funny looking. Yeah.
They're weird, yeah. They almost look like a bronchosaurus if they walk backwards because their tails. But they're
Yes.
cool, but they're always fighting with the raccoons. So we'd like hear those. We'd see snakes. We'd see all this stuff. But as you go up this small creek, it just would get bigger, and then you come to like a small, maybe foot waterfall. Then you come to like a 3 foot waterfall. Then you come to a 4 foot waterfall, and then by the end of it, you're at like a 12 foot waterfall somewhere deep in the jungle that most people wouldn't get to see, right? Because most people just don't go off the trails, and as a local, he knew where all these kind of crazy trails were. And I remember like we'd have to take Paquita and like pass her up because we were climbing up these like mountains and stuff. So that was really cool. I mean, that was definitely something that stood out. I mean, anytime we need a drink, we just climb up a coconut tree. He taught me how to climb coconut trees, and then we just crack open a coconut. And yeah, I mean, it's called pipa, right? So a free pipa all day. That was really awesome.
That's
Uh,
so awesome.
it was so cool. Yeah, it was awesome. And then that's where I learned to surf. Like surfing became a thing for me, and that was really cool. And then I think surfing is just a good hobby in general because it connects you. I don't know, you're just out in nature more. You always feel good. It's good exercise, um, which is great. And then I guess the second story is, oh, Monte Verde. So we went up to Monte Verde once. And I don't know. Did you ever get a chance to go, Bill?
Monteverde, yes.
Okay, Monte Verde, love that place. Oh man, I remember this one. I remember we had the weekend off, right, from classes. So that in the program we would go learn in the daytime, and then at night we would teach the locals to get our practice in, teaching practice, and then to help the locals, which are our friends, they're the ones that are like taking us on tours or own the shop next door, and we just helped them learn English, So it was really lovely how that kind of worked out, It was just everyone supporting each other in a sense. So I remember one weekend it was their Independence Day. So my Spanish is not muy or not good, right? So, but I think it's called Feliz Dias de Independiente, right? So I remember we rented a car, and me and four of the girls who were in the course with me. And one was actually my girlfriend, that's how I ended up getting to Hong Kong, but we can get to that later. I remember right. So we drove from Playa Samara to Monteverde, and as you know, Monteverde is up in the mountains, right? And we're driving through Monteverde or driving to Monteverde, and as soon as we get to the mountains, I mean, we're driving down roads that are basically the width of the car, so not much room for error. And we turn this corner, and then next thing you know, you just see a giant parade of Costa Rican cowboys, like a mile long. So we're like, well, what do we do
I
now? We
did I
can't.
did not I did not experience that. I want to say Monteverde is where we did zip lining and river rafting, but I could be
Yep.
wrong. And some
No, you're
places are
right.
kind of blurring together for me, but
You're correct. I
yeah.
think we just got very lucky that it was their Independence Day that day. So I
Okay.
think all the locals were really just like out and like just all having fun. No one was working. Cause then, so what happened was we get out and we get to this place and we're like, what do we do? And we're like, well, I guess we're gonna have to just pull over and wait until like the festivities are done. Well, so then the cowboys come up and they're like, get out, like get out of the car, like come join us. So they have like a bottle, I guess Kensique. It's like a sugar cane liquor, and then
I
obviously
don't
you
think I
figure out.
experienced that actually. Imperial, yes, but I don't think I've had the
Yeah.
other.
Kensique is like what they make. They put it in that chili guaro. So usually when you get like a free, it's almost like a Bloody Mary shot. I don't drink anymore, but at the time, it was Costa Rica. You're young, why not? But so they had bottle of Kensique and they wanted us to get out. So about 30 minutes in, then one of the girls in our program, she was from Surrey, England, and she grew up with horses. So she was riding the horses like the big mount or cowboy horses. She was riding them like it was easy, like backing them up. Like, I don't know. She knew horse tricks. I was amazed. I don't know horse tricks, so I got on a mule. So then we just spent like the next 2 hours just hanging out with the locals at the barbecue, just kind of waiting it out, but like in a fun way. So then eventually, like everyone kind of had to like die down. So then we got up to Monteverde, and I think where you were saying they had that zip line area, right? Where you could do like zip lining through the jungle. And we didn't do the zip lining, but we did do the bungee jump, which I think is the biggest, it's the farthest drop in Central America or South America. It's like one of the biggest bungee jumps you can do. And that was quite an experience because I remember it was thunderstorming and there's a family sitting on a bench and they came up and were told that family, they're like, I'm sorry, but the weather's not good. There's lightning. You guys can't go bungee jumping. So then I would look at the girls and I'm like, man, we're not going to be able to make it and we have to leave tomorrow. So we're not going to be able to bungee jump because they put you in a giant metal cage, you know? And you can
Okay.
look this up online. So sure enough, they come over to us and they're like, right, you guys ready to go bungee jumping? And we're like, wait. So yeah, so then, well, we ended up going bungee jumping in like a super rainstorm. It was quite scary, but in the end, it was still fun and we all made it. But yeah, I'd say those are my two highlights of Costa Rica for sure, or the ones that definitely stay fresh in my mind.
It's funny you mentioned the horses too, because Costa Rica is the one and only place that I've ever ridden a horse. And if you talk to my children about this, I think it was in Cahuita, which is on the east coast down near Panama, actually. I don't know if you made it to the Jamaican side. The Caribbean side. It's my favorite part of all of Costa Rica. But yeah, we decided to ride horses on the beach. And first of all, not my favorite thing. No offense to anyone who loves to ride horses. But my kids get a laugh out of it every single time we talk about it because, yeah, we did a great job until we got to the end and my foot got caught in the stirrup and I couldn't get myself out as I was dismounting and fell flat on my face. I was
Oh
the only
man.
one to have an issue among all my kids and everybody that was riding with us. And yeah, so good times, good memories.
Yeah, hey,
And you also,
that's
you're way braver than I am. I will never jump off a bridge and I will probably never jump out of an airplane. That I've missed the boat on that. I almost did like a tandem jump out of a plane once when I was much, much younger, and I would have done it. My boss wouldn't let me leave work. And so that was my brave moment, and it's since passed. I'm not a heights guy. Zip lining, now that I would do again. And the zip lining we did, I think it was in Monteverde. We were right at the canopy of the rainforest where we were. And so like we're flying over like waterfalls and stuff. And I think it was like a 12 zip line course or something. And it was just incredible. And I would do that again. But otherwise, I think I'm good with heights. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, so going back to that Thailand trip, that was the first time I did zip lining. And that was in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So it was in the jungle and it was fun, but the guy that was running it kept letting me hit the tree like really hard, like he wouldn't stop me. And I think it's because he had a crush on Maddie, like Madison, the girl that
Oh,
my friend who I've gone with, not knowing that we weren't a couple or anything. So I think he was jealous because he was stopping her quite nicely, but he would just let me hit straight into the tree. And I'm trying to like tell the guy, like, hey, that's not my girlfriend, man. Like you can stop me. And sure enough, no, he wasn't with that. But it was a
that's
cool
hilarious.
experience. I will say I was not impressed with bungee jumping though. Like I think like skydiving would definitely be more fun. The problem with bungee jumping is you hang upside down for so long that it's almost
Yeah.
uncomfortable when like the blood is rushing in your head. And then the way they had it is they had this like it was almost like a long string with a hook on it, and you had to catch the hook and then clip it into your thing so then they can pull you up by the chest, right? So you're level. And one of our friends, she didn't know that, but she went first because she said she bungee jumped before, and she tried climbing up the bungee cord by her arm strength. And then when she let go, got whiplash. So whoever's listening, don't do
Oh
that if you're
gosh.
bungee jumping. Make sure you listen to how to get back up. Because we had to take her to the hospital the next day. She's fine though. Shout out Izzy. She's the one that was good
Gosh.
at horses. So, but yeah, that was quite an experience. But I don't think I'll do skydiving. I've yet to do it, but I don't want to do bungee jumping again for that reason.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. So that sounds amazing. You had a great time in Costa Rica and you have not been back. Is that correct?
No, I'd love to go back, but I think my next adventure will be Machu Picchu
Okay.
sometime next year. So that's the next goal. I've yet to get to South America, so I really want to
Hmm.
start getting some time and going down there. And then just something about Machu Picchu, I'm just drawn to it. So I definitely want to go check it out.
We can talk offline. I'll give you whatever tips I have, which aren't a ton, but I do have a few tips for that area.
Okay, great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did get your degree, obviously, and that's what led you to go to China, correct?
Yeah, so I did do well, that was a bit weird. So at the time, I only had a 2-year degree, an associate's degree from CCAC, which any listeners, I don't know if there's many in the Pittsburgh region and younger ones or ones with kids who will be going to college. If you do CCAC, make sure you try to get into the honors program. If you're taking it seriously and you get good grades and you do an honors project, they will reimburse you for that class. So it was a very cost efficient way of me getting a degree done. So I just want to let everyone know that that is a good option. It's a free option to do your degree. And as an educator, I support everyone getting out there and learning as much as you can in that regards. But then actually, so how I got to Hong Kong was I dated one of the girls that I met in Costa Rica that was in the program with me. Her name was Bailey. She's also married now and has a lovely family, so that's awesome. And she was from Nebraska and I was from Pittsburgh. So when we went back, we were separated for a bit, but then she decided to come visit me in Pittsburgh and meet my family at Christmas time. And I remember it was like 3 days into her visiting. Our plan was we wanted to go teach somewhere in the world together. And she got a job interview for Hong Kong and she got the job. And then with me having a 2-year degree, I figured it was going to be a little bit more difficult to find something. So my goal was either to get into online teaching or again, I kind of just said, I'll take, I'll take chances. And I just took whatever money I had left and I went to Nebraska with her and then just bought a one-way ticket to Hong Kong with really no job lined up at the time.
So
So
what happened? Did she pull some strings for you or something, or like talk to people that got her into it? Or?
Oh no. So that, I mean, that was an adventure in itself, just the first couple days. So like, I mean, so I went and stayed with her and at her place, and her mom was lovely and her cousin. So we spent Christmas together with her family. And since we both had spent Christmas with our families and told them our plan, we just got on a flight and went to Hong Kong. And I remember getting off the plane and we're in the airport and we see a sign and it's all in Chinese. We can't read anything. And she just looks at me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, did we make a big mistake? Like, what are we doing? Like, should we just book a ticket, do a trip, and then go back?" And I was like, "No." I mean, I was like, we have to commit. Like, you know what I mean? We can't just give up. So I was like, "Don't worry. I mean, we got each other. We'll get through it." So unexpectedly, little did we know anything about Hong Kong at the time. If anyone's listening and does know, the first place we booked to stay for a week was Chungking Mansions. And if anyone's familiar with that, it is like probably the worst place in Hong Kong you could stay as far as terms of like safety. It's like it's run by the triads. It's like 15 floors of just, I mean, it was bad. So, but we didn't know, you know what I mean? And it was cheap, and we were young and we didn't have much money. So we show up at Chunking Mansions, and there's just people outside trying to hawk and sell you things that every little thing, things that they shouldn't, or you know what I mean? So we're like, no, like we just go in and we get to our room, and it was very, very small. You couldn't even open the door the whole way. You could only open the door halfway until it hit the bed. The shower was over the toilet seat. And then, I
Oh
mean, that was the
gosh.
most welcome to Hong Kong you could have got. I mean, it was like a 30-minute ride just to go in the elevator. And they had like, because like there's so many people in Chunky Mansions. Definitely give it a Google after this, Bill, and you'll find the history of it quite interesting.
Okay.
So we stayed there, and she got a job at a kindergarten. I mean, she had that job previously through an organization. I mean, if anyone's ever interested in teaching in Hong Kong, I've made so many connections there. You have just add me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you out. Same with Costa Rica or anywhere I've been. So any listeners, feel free to always contact me because, again, like Plato's cave allegory, I will help you get out the cave and open your perspective. But going back to that, she had a job. So then the next 2 weeks, I really just locked down. And I remember having a budget of like $5 a day. I was eating like 7-Eleven noodles every day. Um, not going out, like, you know. So I just spent all day just applying for jobs and job interviews. And then I remember I finally I had like two or three interviews. One went well, one didn't go well. And then I had this final interview with Babington Education. And that's actually the company I ended up working for 5 years, right?
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
they had a job, which I love that company. That company is amazing. And that company gave me so many opportunities and really got me to the point of where I could be here today. So I love that company. And if you're ever looking for a place to start out in Hong Kong, Babington Education is the one. I'm very good friends with the CEO and the trainers, like one of my best friends. Me and him worked together so closely for the last 5 years. So yeah, I mean, I remember that's kind of funny to think because the guy who did my interview is one of my best friends now. And I remember going in and basically I wore a three-piece suit that I had got in Thailand made when I went on my first trip. Don't
Nice.
wear a three-piece suit to an interview where you're teaching 5-year-old children. Shit, that was a terrible, I mean, it wasn't a bad idea. I mean, you should always dress to impress, but definitely not the right scenario to wear a three-piece suit. I was standing there going to 10 small 5-year-old children, "What color is Peppa Pig's mommy's car? My turn, your turn," right? So I did well. I've always been pretty good at teaching. And obviously, you know, with the training in Costa Rica, I had some experience. And then, yeah, I got the job, which was good because then that allowed, well, obviously, we had two incomes and
You
I made a
got out of the
lot of good
mansion.
friends. Got out of chunking mansions. Yeah, I could have a, I could have a shower separate from a toilet for once. So that was great.
That's a great
I,
upgrade. Everyone should
yeah.
strive for that.
Yeah, but also everyone should start at the bottom because it really makes you appreciate when you have things, right? So man, what a way to start in Hong Kong. But yeah, so we did it, we made it. And then we upgraded our apartment and got a nice one bedroom. And then we met some other couple friends through the company itself, Babington. They were always really good about like, introducing you to other people in different parts of the city and doing like get-togethers and stuff like that. So yeah, made like a lot of my friends, a lot of my good friends still to this day. They're all back in England or in South Africa. So it's a lot of, British people or Americans or South Africans, but honestly, not very many Americans. I think I only met a couple in my whole 5 years there. Mostly the people from England, and South Africa got real big after COVID because it was, I think, good money. But yeah, it's a
So
great.
is that where you were during COVID?
Well, yeah. So I was with Babington. I got the job, and then I started working in Monanshawn, which is up north. We moved to a place called Saikung, and that is a really lovely place if you're a couple, but not great if you're single because you're really far from the city. So it's on the coast. It was great. It was close to my work and not too far from hers. But then about, I'd say 4 or 5 months into it, I think she started really missing home, and she didn't really like the school that she worked at. So we kind of just had a discussion one day, and she was like, "I think I want to go back." And I was enjoying it, because my goal was to, have a job where I could travel and see different parts of the world. So we decided at that point, like she wanted to leave home to go back home, and I had made a commitment to Babington, so I decided to stay. So we broke up, but it was on good terms, and in the end, it was the best for both of us. So no ill will or anything like that. Just two people with two different plans for their lives. But yeah, it was great. So then I ended up staying with them as a teacher, moved back closer to the city, and just kind of accumulated new friends through the friends that I already had. Like one of my buddies, Tom, he came in town. I met him through a friend at work, and he was in charge of like the kids or the youth soccer leagues and stuff for like Chelsea and Liverpool. And he's actually in charge of a men's league now in Australia. So I just met like a lot of cool people through that company. My one friend Chanel, who I worked with, my coworker, I was actually like the witness for her wedding to go at the courthouse. So,
Oh
and they
wow.
have two kids now, her and Andre. Shout out to them. They're awesome. Love them. Like their family would come visit all the time too. South African people are like some of the nicest, chillest people in the world. I have to say that. Uh, so I mean, I love the English. Most of my mates, as they would say, are from England, so they're all lovely people as well. But I don't know. There's something about South Africans. They're so laid back. It's so cool. Just met many cool people through that job, and then I got actually promoted to be a trainer, like a teacher trainer. So I
Well,
went more
let
from
me
not
ask you
teaching.
this: how much Chinese did you learn? Because I've talked to people who've done work like this before and not learned very much of the native language of where they are.
I know about 7 words. That's, I mean, it's a hard language, man.
Yeah,
And like,
I kind of had a feel. I
cause like,
just wondered. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, also there's a difference, right? So Hong Kong, they speak Cantonese, and then mainland they
Okay.
speak
Yeah.
Mandarin. So Cantonese in itself is a language you wouldn't be very exposed to before. And then Mandarin or Putonghua, is also just very difficult. And they're both tonal languages. So there's about 7 tones, right? So tonal languages, you could say the same word, but depending on the inflection of the tone at the beginning, middle, and end, it could have 7 different meanings, right?
Yeah. It's just wow. I had a guest on some time ago, and she was from, I can't remember if she was from Hong Kong or from somewhere. She was from the area, and she was talking to me about like the two languages and how, and how like one of them is sort of more traditional as far as even like the written language, and the other is a little bit more not necessarily. I don't know if modern is the right word, but the same words are spelled with different script, and so they look a little bit different. And yeah, it was just it's so fascinating to me and intriguing, but I haven't really taken the time to kind of study it or look too much into it. But it's yeah, so intricate, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, with the writing, it's quite interesting because like I could read certain menus because like so like the symbol for beef kind of looks like a cow. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah, it
medium is like
kind of has the
middle.
horns or something, right?
Yeah, and like chicken kind of looks like a rooster. Now, don't get me wrong, I got that a lot wrong a lot because you look down in the bowl and you're like, that's not beef. You know what I mean? But I'd say 5 times out of 10 you got it right. But I mean like very simple things like Lido is like stop if you're on the bus. Mgoy sai or Mgoy is thank you, just to be polite. You know what I mean? So I knew enough to be polite, but not enough to like hold a conversation.
So you were there for a long enough time and you made a lot of friends there. Did you have any like really cool experiences outside of teaching, just kind of seeing sights or whatever, traveling around the area with the people that you met there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool places. I mean, I remember. I mean, okay, so as far as like sites and just different locations, some like cool out of the wall places. Number one, definitely best place to ever go if you're in Hong Kong and you want to see something just real local, real different, not on TripAdvisor. And I actually lived in this part of town for this reason, and it's called Shamshu Po. It's kind of, I guess the words would be like nitty gritty, but a lot of culture, like local culture in it, and I just loved it. So like I loved it to the point where like I actually got an apartment there and just lived there for a year, just so I could be in that area. And like some cool things that you can see there is like there's a snake queen of Hong Kong. So there's this place you can go and she actually has like snakes, like she has cobras, she has ball pythons, and she has them in these boxes. And it's like a
This
Chinese
is a real
tradition.
person, not just like
Cause she's
a
cool, yeah.
tribute to. Oh wow,
I have pictures with her on Facebook. I'll send them to you if you want them. To see them. They're pretty cool. Don't judge my outfit though. That was different times.
was it a three
But
piece
she
suit?
goes, no, it was not a three-piece suit. It was more like a rave panda shirt, but I don't know what I was doing back then. But I mean, so how I found her was, I guess I did see that on Discovery Channel. There's this old show I really loved. It was about this guy, and he would go to like try different drinks in different countries. I don't know if, oh man, I can't think of the name of it. It was on Discovery Channel. But anyways, so I had saw this and I'd written down in my journal. So I remember I had a day off by myself in Hong Kong to go explore. So I was like, I'm gonna go find this snake lady. So like I walked in, didn't speak any of Cantonese because this is when I had just arrived, and I remember like going and showing them the journal, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah," like like nod their head. So they're like, "Take a seat." So I sit down, and I just point at the menu and order a shot of snake wine. Right. So the big thing is snake wine has medicinal properties in Eastern medicine, and snake soup is also good for you. A fun fact, it kind of just tastes like chicken noodle soup, but it's snake. So I sat down to try this snake wine. I think I got gallbladder wine because it was green. So the green is the gallbladder and it's supposed to be good for you. I had no idea. I was just pointed at something. And like I told you before, I'll try anything once. So then I'm sitting there, and then next thing you know, I just feel something on my shoulders, and I look and it's a snake, and all the locals are looking at me like I was gonna like kind of freak out. But growing up in the country, I'm used to snakes, so I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." So I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then sure enough, I turn behind me, and it's the lady, the Snake Queen from the show. So then I'm like real excited. And I'm like, "Oh, can we take a picture together?" And then next thing you know, I ended up buying a bottle of this stuff, and I'm just sitting around a table with like 10 old Chinese guys, who are like sitting, they always sit there with their shirts half rolled up because it's so hot there. And I don't know a word they were saying, but we were having a great time. It was probably because of snake wine.
That's
But
pretty
I would
awesome.
say, like, yeah, I'd say definitely look that place up. They're always really cool. They're always really nice. And then there's just like street food. There's like Dai Pai Dong. Dai Pai Dong is where you sit with a bunch of people just in a like a big circle, and you just share food with friends, right? Like it's weird in China. It's not like America where like you just order like a steak to yourself, right? Or you just order a hamburger. In China, you very much like it's more a social thing eating because you're sharing dishes. And you actually have like two different pairs of chopsticks. So like black is for serving. Like you only use the black chopsticks to serve the food, and white chopsticks are for your personal use, right? So you're not spreading germs.
That's very cool. I never I don't know if I knew that or not. So awesome. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah, I'd say Shamshu Po is definitely a highlight area, and that's one that most people just don't think about. I mean, I take people there all the time, and then I remember there's some cool places to go saltwater kayaking in Monshan where I lived before, and you could actually like go into like caves and things like that. So like there's like these water caves, and my buddy Alex, he's from Australia. He's the one that got married in Bali. Shout out to Alex and Cynthia. Congratulations. He's such a cool guy. He's always taking me on adventures and stuff. Australians are also awesome people. Love them all. They're always down for a cool adventure. And one time me and him just kind of like took kayaks, no guides, and just went around to all these like small, like little sub islands off the coast. And then sure enough, we like found caves. We went through like jellyfish fields. So like you were kayaking and you look around you and there's just thousands of jellyfish. You know what I mean? So you can just
Jeez.
sporadically run into a lot of like amazing outdoor nature things in Hong Kong because you wouldn't really expect it being like one of the biggest cities, right? But there are just a lot of cool things. Like you can run into some pythons. There's wild cows on some beaches. There, we always go on a lot of camping trips. A couple of my friends were there working. They were Marines from America, and they were working at the consulate, right? They had a really nice gig. They worked at the consulate. They had all their housing paid for, and they had an amazing apartment. Their sergeant, the guy who was in charge of it, Gunny, he was amazing. He was awesome. They'd always kind of have like events or like Halloween parties and stuff like that. But also they were provided with like a bunch of camping equipment. So on nice weekends, we could just always venture out to different beaches and just kind of explore. But we got all this equipment, you know what I mean, and all this food and all these tents. So that was really awesome. So shout out to the Marines for that one. And with COVID, we got lucky because they actually got to stay for 2 years instead of the usual 1 year.
That's very cool. And so, how far into your stay there was it when COVID actually hit?
So I think it was probably 3 years in because I remember after it was about a year and a half, I got promoted to be a trainer. And then for about a year, I was doing the training job. And then we had Hong Kong had the protests. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I
So
don't.
it was like if you look it up, Hong Kong protests, that was a crazy time because basically what was happening was um, Britain had control of Hong Kong, right? In a past agreement. Now I will probably get most of this wrong, so don't fact check me on this. But from my understanding of it, so then what had to happen was uh, Britain, after a certain period of time, had to give it back to China, right? And that's when this was happening, these protests. So by Britain giving it back to China, then the Chinese now took back control of Hong Kong. It wasn't, in a sense, a separate entity or under British control anymore. So China obviously, being different politically, was wanting to start establishing more laws that suited their mindset, right? Which the Hong Kong people, are very proud, and Hong Kong Gaio support them very much in that belief. Uh, and that was basically the umbrella movement is for them wanting to keep their independence, right? Because they are independent in a sense, right? Because they were under British control. So the umbrella movement, is where the reason they call it umbrella is when they go out to protest, they would try to like come out with tear gas and hoses or sometimes even like dogs. So you use the umbrellas as shields, right? And that was, I mean, there's crazy times, man. Like I got tear gassed once or twice with my friend just walking
Oh my
down the
gosh.
street. Not even a part of the protests. We were actually in Shamshu Po. We were checking out like this mountaintop, and I remember we were coming down the hill, and I was distracted doing something, and the next thing you know, we just heard like tink, 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 and there was like a tear gas container, and then it just goes, whoosh, and all of a sudden we just see people in like black, the protesters like just running everywhere, right? And then as being Westerners, we're not really like targeted, because they don't think we're part of the protests, but you're still like in the midst of it. So it was quite crazy. Then oddly enough, it all got shut down because COVID. With COVID coming down from Wuhan, Hong Kong took it very seriously. Like I wasn't here during COVID times, so I'm not aware like, the regulations you guys had, but Hong Kong regulations were really, really strict. Like you had to have an app just to go into a restaurant. Did you guys have something similar like that?
Not an app, but we did have to prove that we were vaccinated. So we would just have to carry like that card with us when we went into places. And
Okay.
maybe there was at some point eventually something like that where you could do it on an app. But at first, yeah, it was an actual like that piece of paper that had to prove that we were vaccinated.
Yeah, so like ours was similar. Like as a teacher, I mean, basically it got to a point where they required you to get vaccinated or you had to give up your position. Even as a trainer, I had to. I mean, you're working with children, you gotta be safe. So I got vaccinated. I was fine with it. But yeah, so they would have like you had to wear a mask. Masks were mandatory, or you got fined. Which I mean, with the Hong Kong heat, that gets annoying. But yeah, it was for a good cause, I guess. But after a while, it's like, what can a mask do? And then you had to check in with this app. So then if there was an exposure, they had your information, and then they would actually take you to a place. It's called Penny Bay. So they'd take you to quarantine. They had like quarantine teams, and you would have to go to like a quarantine camp until you tested negative, right?
Oh my gosh.
So it was crazy. Yeah, like I remember we had a dinner at my friend's house, Tom's, and then everyone had one of our friends had got it, and they all had contacted them. I think I had the wrong number because they never came to get me to go to quarantine. You know what I mean? I think I went camping that weekend, so I wasn't even aware. But by the time I was back, I was testing negative, and I wasn't around people, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, it was crazy times. But so that whole COVID thing really, really shut down all the protests. But then that kind of led a whole new area of work for me because I mean, obviously with schools closing down, and the company I worked for was a before and after school program, which we helped. It was like supplementary English. Well, where does your income come from now? You know what I mean? If kids aren't allowed to go into class.
Right.
So that was a real point where we were kind of like, well, what do we do now? That kind of led me to what I got my master's in. So at this point, I finished my bachelor's in business, and we now had to switch everything to online. So we had a meeting with my CEO. It was a small team. There's only 5 of us, but we had a lot of like, I think we had like about 100 employees. So a lot of people's jobs were dependent on it. So the thing is, we just decided that we would take all the curriculum we had, and we would just do it online, right? But that's a very hard transition if anyone's an educator. You know what I mean? Taking an hour-long in-person class for English from ages, from 3 to 12 to now doing it online, right?
It's got to be way more
So
difficult.
it was very difficult, but it was good. I mean, I always look at it as I don't look at obstacles, I look at opportunities. So for me, it was a great opportunity to really work on a lot of my skills. So I actually authored like most of the books that we used for it. I came up with like I did all the designs for the lessons. I did training videos. I did editing for the training videos. I actually started a commercial for it. You know what I mean? So it was fun. I mean, me and my boss, we would be doing like 12-hour days at work because people's livelihoods depended on it. But me and him were like best friends, and we worked great together. He was very organized, and I was very creative. So in the end, we got it done, and the company survived. And then it's actually kind of now branched off and became its own company, and I think it's still doing pretty well. Now we hire people from all over the world to teach. So check out Babo Go if you ever want to teach online. Good
Yeah,
company.
that's awesome. So,
Yep. And then that well,
so
that's kind of what. Oh, go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So then after doing that, I kind of just realized where my skills lie and what I really enjoyed, and that was more of like the design and the curriculum and the instruction and learning theories, right? So like I'm obsessed professionally with like mental models and learning theories. So then since we had all that time, and once we got to a point where it was pretty good, There wasn't too much work to do as far as urgency. My CEO, Cliff, was really nice. And I asked him, I was like, hey, if I look into doing my master's online, would it be okay if, I took some time to do it at work? And he was super supportive of that. He's like, as long as you're getting your stuff done, take as much time as you want and you can do it at the office. So I actually then did my master's in instructional design from Western Governors University. So it's a online school based from Salt Lake City, Utah, which that was awesome because I actually ended up completing that in about a year because they
Wow.
do it differently where they do it by based on competency, right? So you don't have to go to a class for a term, right? At that point, I think I had learned so much skills just from applying it, right, in real life that I could just, some of the classes I knew what I was doing, like certain learning theories, ADDIE models. So if you wrote a paper or took a test, you could basically test out kind of like an ACT course. So I really focused and then got that done. And yeah, that was a blessing in a sense because again, you got to look at opportunity and not an obstacle. Like, yeah, COVID didn't allow us to go out. Yeah, it stopped certain aspects of the company, but it opened new avenues for the online and also gave me the time to pursue my master's, which in the end, was a big accomplishment that I'm still really proud of today.
Yeah, so it really was a blessing. And I think it was for a lot of people in a lot of ways, even though you didn't realize it at the time. And maybe you did even more sort of at the time because of what you were going through and whatever. But yeah, definitely looking back, the world is a different place because of it. But in many ways, it is better. You can say that there's ways that it's that it's worse off, but I think for the most part, it's probably a better place after what we've been through. So you spent a little bit more time in Hong Kong, but I'm just looking at the clock and we've probably got another 15, 20 minutes to chat about some of the other places in the world that you've been before we get to our final five questions. And I'm not trying to take away from that area. If there's any more like stories or experiences that you want to share with us from there, by all means. But I'd also like to definitely touch on some of the few other places that you've been that we haven't talked about. So up to you. I'll let you steer the ship.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I don't want to go too much into like my own personal stories, but I mean, I'm just giving it from
Yeah, no, no,
my
no, I love it.
perspective. So okay, yeah, we'll speed it up a bit. After the Babago in Hong Kong, I kind of just got to a point where after COVID, I was like, I didn't really get to travel much. So I felt like I kind of to reach my peak of what I could do for the company and what I could learn. So I decided to switch to kindergarten teaching. For the reason being, as a kindergarten teacher, you get about like 9 weeks paid off a year, right? In Hong Kong, you have to stay for 7 years to get your PR. So I had 2 years left, and I didn't really see myself wanting to live there long term. So I was going to maximize the time I had with those 2 years and really get out and about what this podcast is about is and go travel and see what I hadn't seen yet, right? So yeah, so I think the next trip I took then after that was me and my buddy went to the Philippines for the first time. Shout out Sam Marshawn. Uh, Me and him went for a week down in Puerto Galera, and that was an amazing experience to say the least. We just found it randomly online. Puerto Galera is not a very popular place in the Philippines. It's a small island, but we showed up. I can't remember what the dive resort place was called, but we signed up for like a week intensive scuba diving class so we could get our PADI certificates. And that was amazing. And it was way more intense than I thought it was going to be. We showed up and we were the only two people that had signed up for that week. The only other two people was this small Filipino guy he had great English, and this other guy, I think he was from America, but he was doing his dive master training. And we spent the week. It was like 12 hours a day, very intensive, but we saw amazing things in Puerto Galera. I'd definitely go there. We swam through, like, we did snorkeling and we saw like razor clams and electric clams that actually had like, you could see electricity in them. We saw sea turtles. I mean, the locals there are awesome. The food is amazing. The great thing about the Philippines is you get everything like about Asia, but like everyone's so friendly and everyone's English is really good, right? So it's just so easy to communicate compared to other places. And on top of that, like the infrastructure is very similar, like their highways and stuff. You'd almost think like you're in the South. It's weird. You know what I mean? Like
Okay. I have not
from an
been. So
infrastructure standpoint, yeah. If you ever go to the Philippines, you kind of it's almost like you're in Florida. It feels like, but you're not. You're in Asia. So that was a really cool experience. And then after that, I went back to the Philippines another time with a couple of my friends, and yeah, so a couple of my friends, and that was fun. But that one we didn't really do too much. Another thing about the Philippines is they love karaoke, so we would sing karaoke every night. But you can't sing "My Way" by Frank Sinatra. That's a fun fact.
okay.
So
Is there a reason?
they'll not allow you to do it. I'll leave that as a mystery for your listeners. I won't go
Okay.
too much into that since we don't have too much time. Look up why you can't sing "My Way" in the Philippines. There's an
I mean,
exciting story
and I
behind that.
and listen, I'm not trying to rush anything. Like you can go into as much detail as you want on any of these places. I just wanted to make sure we get to touch on at least a
But
little bit
no,
of each.
it's all good. I gotta let them search up some stuff, right? So
Okay.
I'll drop
Okay.
that
I love it.
seed. They can look into it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was great. What else did we do that trip? We went whale shark. We went swimming with whale sharks, but honestly, that was a sad experience. I wouldn't promote that. So if you see that, probably don't do it. It's sad. They have these whale sharks in like a net, and there's like 50 people just splashing around them. I'm a big lover of nature, so yeah, it's not the right way to see them. If you're going out on a boat a couple miles and you're jumping out into a big ocean and they're not in nets, then I support that. You know what I mean? But when you see like that big of a creature in such a small space with people just splashing around, I don't think it's healthy for it. You know what I mean? Um, but overall, I would say Philippines definitely an amazing, amazing place. Even more amazing people, and definitely check it out. Yeah, for sure. After the Philippines, I guess I skipped a bit, but I did spend some time. I lived in Bangkok for a month, but that was more just trying to get by between the transition of the job and the kindergarten job because it's so cheap to live. So if you ever need a place just to kind of chill out, eat good food, Bangkok's not a bad place. And then me and my friend who was the Marine, we actually lived in Bali for I think like 3 weeks. So that was actually before Philippines. I love Bali. I still have a lot of local friends there, but I do think it's quite overrated personally. I don't know if you've ever been.
I haven't been, and I've heard kind of both sides of it. Why do you say? Like,
Well, I
I guess
think
what was your experience there that kind of did that for you?
well, so I went when I went and stayed. I always like staying in like not like very like nice resort areas and stuff like that because I want to go see like the culture. I want to meet like the locals, you know. So we stayed in Kuta, and it's in Seminyak area, and it's still a nice area. Don't get me wrong. No ill will to Kuta. Love the people there, but I just feel like Bali is just so glamorized by like influencers and like people working on like their laptops and stuff. Like I think something like in my age or that you see it a lot on Instagram. They make it almost look like paradise on earth, and it is lovely, it is great, but I think maybe that's just kind of what, you know what I mean, just it was over dramatized in that sense. So when you get there you're just kind of like I like the Philippines more than Bali, to be honest.
One of the things
you
I
know
heard about Bali from one of my guests was that he was very disappointed. And part of it, I think, was because it's become such a popular destination. Maybe it's a little bit overcrowded with tourists and stuff, and people aren't as respectful of the land. And so he was saying that his experience there, at least, was it wasn't as clean as he expected it to be. And again, like you see people's photos on Instagram and such, and it's just perfection. And they're not showing you like what's truly there. And at least that was kind of
I
the
mean,
vibe that he got from it.
exactly. So that time was fun. We stayed around. We made friends, which I went back and saw 2 years later and still met up with them. So shout out Quality Ink. I don't have tattoos, but if you get a tattoo, go to Quality Ink. Addie and the boys, they looked out for me a lot. They'd like pick me up in cars or always get me from the airport. After 2 years of not seeing them, still good friends. So that's what I'll say. Indonesian people love them. Like they are loyal, lovely friends, great people. But again, I think you are right, Bill. I think it's the infrastructure that just drives you crazy. Like to drive anywhere, the roads are terrible, like awful, like total opposite of like what I was saying about the Philippines. Like where we stayed, one place it was a giant hole in the ground, so you had to drive uh an hour extra just to go what would be about 100 yards across because
Oh my
the layout
gosh.
of it just is so bad. That's where we stayed. We went up north and we were coming back down. My friends Alex and Cynthia I mentioned before, they got married at this it was the Grand Barong Resort. It was the most amazing hotel place out there. I can't even you can't even call it a hotel. It was like they rented out all these villas. It was like that movie Crazy Rich Asians in a sense. Like that's
Hmm.
how extravagant. And then like fireworks shooting off cliffs. So thank you very much for them inviting me. That was a memory I'll have for life. It was the most beautiful wedding for two of the most beautiful people I know. So they deserved it. But after that, yeah, we had gone down in the jungle and the infrastructure there was just, yeah, it was awful. So I think that's maybe what it is. It just can be stressful, and then the heat, it's hot. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about Indonesia. Nothing too crazy. But I just said my favorite thing about there is just the people I met, because the Indonesian people are really lovely.
Yeah, and that's again, and I've heard that's exactly the sentiment that I heard as well, was that the people there are absolutely amazing.
But I
Maybe
guess then
maybe not a destination for me.
yeah, I don't know. I honestly I put Philippines over that, to be honest. You get more for your cheaper, more for your money, easier to converse, and just I think the water was even better. Like the scuba
Okay.
diving in the Philippines was amazing. So, but also I'd say okay, another country that I'd say underwhelmed by was Tokyo, Japan. I only did Tokyo for it was I think about a week, and many people swear by going to Japan, but for me, I just found it a bit underwhelming. But that could be because I'd spent so much time in Hong Kong, like another major Asian metropolitan city, and we did cool things there. Like I pet otters and fennec fox. We went to Grand Emperor Plaza. We played pachinko. We went out on a couple nights out, but the culture is very much just eating and drinking, but almost in like their own little groups. You know what I mean? Um, the Japanese people are very polite, but I would say they're not very outgoing, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
So like, so like nothing wrong with the Japanese people at all. Like again, love them. Thank you for having me in your country, but it's just it's not the same, I guess. It's not as welcoming as I felt like compared to like when I was in China, like mainly in China. I think a lot of people are surprised when I say mainland China is one of my favorite places, and the reason being because people are so friendly and like happy to see you. Like mainland China, they're like, oh my, they're like, wow, like can I take a picture with you? Um, and not saying I like it because of that, like if someone wants to take a picture with me, it's just they're genuinely excited to meet and see you where I just kind of didn't get that same vibe in Japan. It was more of a like polite, like hello, but kind of like want to be on my own way type thing.
almost like they felt that they have to do that, sort of.
Yeah, almost like they feel like they're obligated. I guess
Yeah,
obligated to
that's the word I
be
was looking
friendly.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they just feel like they're obligated because it's part of their culture. You don't want to be rude, but also again, I'm like I don't know if they're the biggest on tourists and coming, but I did meet some lovely Japanese people, and I had tutored for a Japanese family in Hong Kong, and they were some of the nicest people I've ever worked for. So I mean, as a culture, it's still awesome. I mean, I'm a big fan of everything Japanese culture wise too, and like the food. So I really enjoyed that part. If you're a foodie and you like more peaceful type things, yeah, I mean Japan's probably for you, honestly. But
Yeah.
again, I always like a little bit of adventure and getting to know the locals. So for me, maybe that's why I just didn't enjoy it as much because I didn't really get to experience the local aspect of it as much.
Yeah, that's fair. And there's probably, and obviously Tokyo is its own animal, I think probably. And I've never been, so I don't know, but I have heard from people who've been all over the country and very different experiences in Kyoto or Osaka or these other places. I don't know, maybe a different area would be better. for you, just because maybe the
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I would go back to check out different areas. It's not, it wouldn't be on the top of my list to go back to. And that's just being transparent and honest. But that leads me then to my last location on my list. So I think we'll have enough time for it. And honestly,
We're good.
that was probably one of my favorite trips that I've ever took. So I came back then. I stopped at Tokyo on the way back after leaving Hong Kong with the intention of, coming back to the States. Not sure at the moment where I wanted to be at, but I spent some time down in Arkansas to spend time with my grandpa and my mom and my dad and my uncle down there. I shout out Uncle Boo Boo. He's always looking out for me. And then went to New York for a bit to just kind of go see it, which is awesome. Love New York. I think New York gets a bad stigma. Everyone there is awesome. Had a great time everywhere I went. And then from New York, I went to the last place on my list, and that was my first time going to Europe, which was Italy. And that was definitely an amazing experience. I went there with my sister and her boyfriend, Michael. His son is actually going to school there right now at FSU, but it's in Florence. So I'm not sure if people knew that, but Florida State University actually has a campus in Florence, Italy. So that was kind of the reason we went out there. I was to just kind of help him move in and get settled. And
Awesome.
then,
Tell me any experiences you have of Italy. It's one of my favorite countries.
well, so I mean, one of the best times was Rome. I love Rome. I love the history. Like I am such a big like history buff on Rome. Like Greek mythology, I was always super into. And then like as I've gotten older, really getting into the history of Rome. I was super excited for it. I mean, we had a great time. We only had about 2 days there, but I think it was probably the highlight of the time that I had there. So we went to Rome, and I just remember the first night, like since we didn't have much time, I just wanted to take it all in. So we went and obviously saw the main, just like the main things like Colosseum and stuff like that. We didn't go in because the weather wasn't great, but we just went around. But I remember I stayed out pretty late. I think I stayed out to like, well, I stayed out all night the last night we were there because we had a pretty long train ride to Florence. Well, it wasn't too long, but I wanted to sleep on it. And I remember I was at a bar, and I remember going back to the Vatican like early in the morning, and I met this guy, and he was on a pilgrimage, and I can't remember his name, but he was such a nice guy. He had this big leather, like it was like a cowboy hat, but bigger, and he had this staff, and he kind of looked like Jesus, to be honest. Like he had a long beard,
That's fitting.
and he was such a nice guy. And I was just talking to him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I'm just leaving a bar. I'm just trying to take this all in. This is amazing." He's like, "Do you want to help me like pass out waters to people? Because a lot of people in Rome will sleep outside in that courtyard area because I think it's quite safe. And I think some people were waiting to go to church because it was Sunday that day, right? So they're having service. And I remember going and passing out waters with him, and then he was like, "Do you want to go to the Vatican for service?" And I am a Christian. At the time, though, I wasn't as strong as I am now in my faith, and I think this was something that really led me to that. And we went to service. We were the first people through the doors at service at the Vatican because it was like 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning. So I remember like the first, like the bell rings, the doors open, and like we're like the first ones through the door. And I
This
mean,
is at
man,
St. Peter's.
I think that's the church, right?
Yeah, the
It's like
St. Peter's Basilica. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like the front area, where most people go and like take the pictures. Yeah, so this is like the St. Peter's. So like they open the doors, it's like on the left on the side. And yeah, I mean, I think we got there like there's usually I think there was like a bit of a line, right? So we get in there, and then obviously it's all in Italian, so I don't really know what's being said at the service. But I went and prayed and took communion, and then the guy sent me photos he took of me like walking into it, which were really good. He had this nice camera, but then he just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. Like I have his contact, you know what I mean? But I just somehow lost him in church. I mean, crazy story, you know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe he's a saint. Wherever he's at. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That's
But that was, I mean, it was an incredible experience. And I think that's the first time in my life where I really felt the presence of God. Like that was a I I'd always believed there was something, but I feel like that really got somewhere. It resonated with me deeply. And that was amazing. So then after that, we headed off to Florence and we spent some time in Florence, met with Michael's son Lucas, and Florence is nice, but it's just very much all shopping. You know what I mean? And you get lost a lot because I'll tell you guys right now, the phone service in Italy is awful. So no matter what service you get, if it's like a SIM card, you know what I mean? You're not a local, you're not going to get probably good service here and there. So you get lost on maps. I download Maps Me. That's a good shout. And then you can actually download it so the map doesn't have to connect to cellular. That's good for every country. So then you don't have to rely on cellular service if it goes out. Florence was cool. I got lost a lot, but I learned if you follow canals, you can usually make your way home. Nothing too crazy about Florence though to like really reflect on. But one of my Marine buddies then was living in Milan that I'd met in Hong Kong. Well, he got a new position in Milan, so I decided I was going to pack up and just go see him for a couple days. And I'll say Milan was surprisingly really cool. Did you do Milan, Bill?
Milan's pretty awesome. Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Yeah, matter
I
of
love
fact,
Milan. Milan was
every
great.
time I was watching the Olympics and they kept showing that beautiful basilica, whatever you call it, there was. I have photos of that, and I just kept like harkening back to like I was there. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think it was actually. It's not called basilica. It is it a Duomo? That's what it is in Milan. It's the Duomo.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah. So
I wasn't. I didn't really get to know the names of the place, to be honest. I kind of just explored like on my own. I didn't have like any set places that I went to.
yeah, but you met
Um,
up with your buddy.
yeah, I met up with my buddy Zach, who was awesome. He let me stay with him. He actually is just having a baby, so congratulations to him and Ava. He's back in Hong Kong now living. So that's awesome. And yeah, so I stayed with him and we hung out. I explored. I always go to Chinatowns in other countries because like I like Asian food. So the Chinatown in Milan's really, really cool. If you ever want a place to go check out, it's a little bit like maybe I guess not so Italian, but it's also quite interesting just to see from a different perspective, like Asian representation in Italy. And then I guess the coolest place we went after that was Lake Como.
It's another place
So,
I haven't been. It's on my list.
oh, you would love
So
it.
yeah,
Lake Como is so cool. So my sister and Michael, they actually came and met us in Milan and stayed with me, had my friends with me. And then we decided that we would go up to Lake Como for a day. So we ended up going and getting on a bus. I think it was about 2 or 3 hours away. And then we got to Lake Como. And Lake Como was amazing. I think it's from a James Bond movie. Like everyone knows it, right?
yeah, I do believe that's correct.
Yeah, they're like the little boat. So it was cool. I mean, we didn't do much, but we just ate good food, enjoyed like the mountain view. It was great. They had like these springs. I mean, it was just an amazing trip and that. And then we actually then came back to Milan and then went back to Rome and then flew back to New York, where New York was cool because Zach, my buddy, was actually just leaving Milan. So we talked him in for going to Milan and coming and staying with us in New York, like a week later. And then a bunch of my friends from Hong Kong came and we went to like a New York Yankees game. So we all got to meet up there. And then after that, I finally had to quit traveling for a year. And yeah, now I'm back in Pittsburgh, working as a camp director.
That's awesome, man. So, any other cool experiences in New York City? Again, and we mentioned this offline. Like, we don't talk about the states that often. That's I think because part of it is we kind of take it for granted. But New York City is I agree with you 1,000%. It is an incredible place. I think New York City is what you make of it. But if you make the right decisions when you're there, it's just an incredible experience. And I've only been once. I need to go back.
Yeah, I would say okay, highlights of New York. There's this little diner I went to that I loved, and they actually like would always hook me up with free desserts. I can't think of it, but shout out to them. We stayed more in like the Manhattan area, but one time we were looking at the Statue of Liberty. We're coming back. all these people are lined up. We're like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's the president. So the next thing you know, like the president drives by in a limo. We didn't even know what was going on. You know what I mean? Because we hadn't been checking the news. We had been in Italy. So I guess there was like the World Summit or something. So that was pretty cool. Like we saw like the Secret Service and everything go by. And that was downtown on like near Ellis Island. There's like a couple cool restaurants down there to check out. Honestly, I think the coolest thing that I saw though is go to the Smithsonian. Like more people should go see that. That place was awesome. The museum.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that there was a Smithsonian in New York City.
Yeah, it's the one from Night at the Museum.
Oh, okay. I've been
So
to
it's like
the ones in DC, but I've never been in New York City.
it was awesome. And then go see the space show. So there's like a space show where you can go and it's like about space and it's almost like in a sphere. Like that sphere in Las Vegas, but it's just a smaller version.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you're in space. Like I kept having to look at my feet just to make sure I wasn't floating. Like, so I'll say that. That's my one shout out for New York. Go to the Smithsonian, you'll get culture and you'll get a cool space show. And I think it was pretty cheap too. For New York, everything's expensive. So.
Right, right. Excellent. So you're back now, and we're going to talk about maybe what plans you have. And you kind of mentioned a little bit, but if you're cool with it, let's get to our final 5 questions and see where that takes us. And I tell all my guests to take as long as you'd like to with the answers. We're in no rush. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So question number 1, and I say this every time, but since you're new to the show, I phrase this question very specifically because sometimes, and we talk a little bit about you enjoy food. Sometimes it's not about the actual food itself. So question number 1 is, of all of the places in the world that you have been, what was your favorite meal experience that you had?
Koh Phangan, Thailand, shrimp fried rice, and pineapple. Easily.
So was it because of the food itself, or was it sort of everything?
Well, it was a little bit of everything because I remember we were eating the food and it was at this like real small place and the guy was really nice and his son was there and his son was about 4 years old and I made him a paper airplane and he thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And the people I was eating with were Maddie, my friend Connor, and then the girl who actually told me about the TEFL, right? She was, I don't know if I said that previously, she told me about the TEFL experience and teaching abroad. And me interacting with that kid, she was the one that told me I was good with kids and I should pursue it. So not only was the food amazing, but that whole experience itself kind of was the catalyst of all this happening in a sense.
Okay. Well, then that makes a lot of sense. So not only was this
Yeah.
food incredible, but yeah, that
Oh, best food ever. Yeah.
okay. Very good. All right. So moving on to question 2, and this is one I think you may have sort of touched on already, but maybe you have another answer, or maybe you just have the same answer. No big deal either way. So question number 2 is, of all the places in the world that you have ever been, even if I was to say to you, Payne, here's a free trip, go enjoy yourself, you would say, no, thank you, I don't want to go back.
Oh, at this moment in time, probably Bali.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought you were going to go with it, but I wasn't sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Bali.
Yeah. And you've already given the reasons why. It's very fair. I understand completely.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So again, as expected. So flipping that on its head then, of all of the places in the world that you have been, question 3, if you only had one or two trips left in your lifetime for some reason, what would be the 1 or 2 places that you have been that you absolutely have to go back to?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I'd say Hong Kong just because I have to go say goodbye to everyone or all my friends. You know what I mean? But does that count because I lived there for so long?
Yeah. I mean, but you get another.
Okay. And then, you know what? Probably Rome. I wish I really would have had more time there. I think I definitely want to go back to Rome.
Excellent. And I don't fault you for that whatsoever. I only got a day or 2 there as well myself, and I think I definitely need to spend more time there also. So, very fair. Okay. Question number 4 is, of all the places in the world that you have never been, this one's probably going to be very difficult because you have that passion for travel now, and you're a little bit younger, you still have a lot of the world to see. But the same caveat, if you only had one or two places left in your lifetime to visit, what would be those one or two places that you have to get to?
Machu Picchu for sure. Not doing it this year, but I plan on doing it for sure next year, May time. And second would be South Africa. So I would like to see Africa, and I think South Africa, just getting to know the people and them all being so lovely, I'd definitely pick. So yeah, Machu Picchu and somewhere in South Africa. It doesn't matter what city.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I actually am not surprised by either of those answers. So excellent. So I only have one question left for you, and you may not have one at this point because I know you just got back recently and just kind of started in this position not too long ago. But question number 5 is, Payne Roberts, where are you going? What do you have planned, if anything, even if it's just in the States or local, or anything that you have planned for sure in the next year or so?
As far as traveling,
Yeah.
well, I can't buy tickets yet because it's too early. But definitely, yeah, Machu Picchu will definitely be the next that I go on my list. And then I do have a friend getting married next year in Australia, in the Gold Coast. So if I can make it work, I'm gonna probably end up going for that.
Yeah,
So that would be my two, Machu Picchu and Australia for the
that's
next year.
excellent. And next year, so maybe I'll see you in Australia. My daughter, I don't know if you know this, my daughter lives in New Zealand currently. That's where I had just gotten back from, probably when you had stopped in. And
Yep.
they're planning to move to Australia, as of now anyway, sometime this summer. So that will
Oh,
probably be
nice.
one of my next large trips, will be Australia. So maybe I'll see you there.
Maybe we'll be on the same flight.
Yeah. There you go.
We did a second podcast together on the flight over to Australia.
That would be one way to kill the time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's not a short flight. I mean, you've done Asia, so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been awesome, Payne. I'm so glad that we connected. Thanks, Donna, and that we got to spend this time together. Do you have anything, last words, anything you want to add or say before we actually hit stop on the recording?
I mean, I guess the only thing I'd say is, just for everyone listening, if you've ever wanted to go see the world, remember you only get one chance and one shot at this life from this perspective, right? So take it, don't be that man in the cave. Take the chances. It can be hard. It can be difficult to, just like, going out of the cave, seeing the light. It's not going to be easy, but you won't regret it. So get out there, go see the world, experience good people, and represent, yourself well when you do it. Show love, show grace, and yeah, just enjoy it because it's fun.
I second that wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, Payne, for taking this much time with me and sharing all of your stories and experiences with all of us. I really appreciate it. And best wishes to everything. And we'll be in touch for sure, because hopefully I'll see you in my branch at some point.
Yeah, I'll stop by soon. Hopefully I don't have any financial troubles, but I'll just come say hi to you and Donna.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Bill. You have a great night.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always. And I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.